Many thanks to the Destruction Squad, Clash from the servers, Sgt. Pepper's servers, Sea of Tools Cloud, Dallas, the Struggle Community, the Karma Crew servers, Dots, Designful, Friendly, a DayZ podcast, and the Settlement for making this video possible. DayZ 1.29 is finally going to fully release in 2 weeks from now, but the stream they dropped today had a huge amount of new information as to what this patch is going to be coming with, and there's going to be a ban on ReShade in DayZ, and the group spawn system is going to be changing, and I'll go over all of that right now. So first up, DayZ 1.29 will release on all platforms on the 27th of November and will include a partial wipe, which means we may have some dingleberries. The wipe will include only items, vehicles and bases on the server, so what you have in your inventory or in your hands will not be wiped, so you can grab a giant crate full of gear to save it for that wipe, but Bohemia has recommended to fully wipe to avoid unforeseen issues. The reason for this wipe is because a lot of server-side stuff has changed, which according to the data they've collected over the last few months has improved server performance by up to 400%, which is a monstrous improvement. They did this by adjusting 3 different parts of the game: the physics controller, the player handler, and how AI like infected and animals update on a regular basis. Now you shouldn't see any major changes to physics or AI, there hasn't been AI rework or whatever, but you will probably notice lag happens a lot less often, and because it's 400% is a big number, the server performance issues on PlayStation should be fixed in 1.29 completely, perhaps allowing 100 player servers again. These improvements are for all servers though, and all platforms, even Linux based servers, and should greatly reduce desync issues that result in stuff like the hand bug, rubber banding and vehicles crashing out on us. However, these changes may come with new problems, as I've noticed that in the code they'll be caching a lot of information which could potentially return incorrect data sometimes, such as, for example, potentially a weapon randomly disappearing from your inventory if it's not cached correctly and if it's not synced up correctly. This could be an issue. It's probably not going to be, but it could be, because caching does have these issues sometimes. And also this 400% improvement number may be lower on different server configurations or with certain modifications on the server. So until this patch actually drops on the 27th, we don't know the full extent of these changes, but it does look extremely promising so far. Many players have noticed that other players are using a program called ReShade to abuse how DayZ looks, and therefore can make other players stand out like a sore thumb in a bush, allowing you to get an advantage over other players that don't use ReShade. And this has become a mainstream issue now, to the point where the devs have actually dropped the ban hammer on it, and DayZ will no longer launch while ReShade is running. Exactly how this block works isn't clear, and it's likely some players may find workarounds. However, since ReShade is considered a banned program by the DayZ developers specifically, BattlEye has permission to kick you if it detects it, and they can potentially ban you if they want to. So you will likely get kicked if you're using ReShade, and potentially banned even if you're not using it to gain an advantage. You can still use ReShade in offline mode to take screenshots or to record, so it's completely safe to use. The bans will only happen to those that bypass the DayZ server connection, so when you're connecting to a live server with other players, that's when you're not allowed to use ReShade. If you're using offline mode, that's perfectly fine. In previous patches, a single spawn area called a group spawn would assign all players who respawned or joined a server, spawning players where this area was at that time, which changes location every 5 minutes. So every 5 minutes, loads of players are going to spawn in that area, and then it will switch over here, loads of players will spawn there instead. In patch 1.29, the group spawn system has been changed to reduce the likelihood of players respawning in the same location repeatedly. However, based on the code that I found, it looks to work exactly the same, but with one small change. Basically, you will spawn in the group spawn area still, so this system is very much still in effect, but if you die and respawn quick enough, it will spawn you in a random location. So instead of being hard locked to a group spawn and potentially getting spawn camped by a high geared player for 5 minutes, we can escape to spawn randomly in a different location if we die enough times in a short amount of time. However, this code can also be interpreted as if enough players spawn in a group spawn, then that group spawn becomes disabled or moves elsewhere. So if 3 people spawn at group spawn, the group spawn might switch location. At least that's what I understood from the code. I will test it fully when stable releases, because pretty much all of my mods and every mod out there is broken with 1.29. I'm sure it'll be fixed before stable releases, but until it does, I can't really do too much testing. Let me know your take on this news, and if you have any feedback for the developers, they're very much looking for it, especially for the group spawn system. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good day.